method.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. We
This
talk
is-
about details, I guess.
Yeah.
We get details now.
And I guess it's from the folks that had,
Yeah. From all the conversations, yeah.
a lot of conversation. Okay,
Recording in progress.
the May meeting of the Metropolitan Housing Alliance Board of Commissioners is now in session. Director Benedicto, if you would give us a roll call, please.
Yes, just 1 second. I'm trying to record, but I'm playing. Okay. All right, so Chairman Lee Lindsay,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Carrie Wright, Commissioner Lita Anthony,
Here.
Commissioner Brandy Peterson. Okay, well,
Dr.
Chairman,
Peterson?
She's not here. She's in the meeting.
She is muted, yeah, she's muted.
She's muted.
okay, all right, so I'll just note her is here unless I learn otherwise, that she is muted.
All right. We have
Chairman,
one-
you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have one participant, or at least one client who'd like to address the board. Yes, Ms. Hatfield?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Please come up.
Okay. Never done this before, and I'm very nervous. My name is Michelle Hatfield. I'm 58 years old. I'm a resident at Paristown for the last 3 months, and it's been horrible. I've been terrorized. I've been victim of assaults. I've no plumbing. I had feces all over my apartment. And they won't help me. I've gone to the Attorney General. I've gone to Metropolitan. I've been going to Highfield. I've begged, please, they won't fix it. They laugh at me. Going when I was, said maybe I need to speak to someone. I was a psych nurse in service community. My husband went to Vietnam and was the CEO of Critical Point who dragged me in front of my job. 30 years after Vietnam from PTSD. My daughter, a veteran of Afghanistan. This is work again. Then right across Broadway, it's Sarah, Princess Sarah, and all the manicured lawns. Broadway, the Great Divide. Little white girl can tell the haves and have-nots. This is not acceptable. I'm living in fields that are being treated for being exposed to pathogens. I'm on my 3rd back surgery for working so hard to keep my children. My daughter's an attorney now. My son is graduate. I know it just can't be happening in my world. This is not my world. This doesn't happen. Not in America. This is working. Anyway, I'm begging you. I had 50 death threats or so via text, and when I was escorted out and into the building one day, the main drug dealer there got busted. So now I'm talking about the blood's gunshot under my window, assaulted, punched in the elevator. And when I saw the man that assaulted me, I have police reports for all this. I asked the receptionist kid in the elevator, I said, does he live here? Yes, he does. What's his name? I don't know. That's a lie. She knows everyone's name. They're covering for people assaulting me. I'm scared to death here. It's terrorized every day. I sit in my apartment quiet with no utility, no water, no toilet. And then it exploded and I had feces. I'm sorry. This is way too much. I was seen by a doctor yesterday. I want you to know I'm in my right mind. Yes, I had PTSD before. I pulled myself out of homelessness myself. And you don't even want to know how I got in there and why the wait lists are moving. And I would really love the budget for maintenance there and their books. I would also like to know who has access to the wait list and to change it. And I want to see a list of the residents next to the list of your wait list. Because I guarantee you I can back up everything I'm saying, Mr. Chris Porter, Mr. I know way too much. And I don't want anyone in trouble.
No.
I just want my life, my
Thank you.
health.
What unit are you in, Ms.
Yes,
Hatfield?
916. The
916?
beautiful view of the Cracker Capital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And-
put this on my husband.
So you've had conversations with the property manager, the person on board and that sort of
You
thing?
haven't got any phone calls today? Because this morning I brought a judge of warranty.
Right.
I'm sorry, I have nothing, I can't get through to these people. They don't
That's
care
her.
about my stuff.
Okay. That's her on there. Okay.
No.
Hi, I apologize. I wasn't able to hear a lot of the commentary that was provided, but I got the gist that Ms. Hartfield, you are not happy with the management and the response you're getting. So I will absolutely be in contact with Ms. Mays and Ms. Wise about the problems that you just stated. Members of the board, would someone be able to maybe send me an email with some of her concerns, just so I can make sure that I'm able to address each one?
I'm concerned that the buck is going to continue to be passed from Metropolitan to Gorman.
Well, we're gonna see that our director will follow up with them and, give you some sort of feedback on what
Because I still have
occurred and
dreams.
that sort of
I'm trying to
thing.
go to school to get a second
Okay.
degree in art. I'm trying to have vacation with my children. I don't want them to get a horror story of how I died. That's the apartment. They don't deserve it.
Ms. Hatfield, I'm sure that most people are confused about the relationship that MHA has to the towers. Gorman is
Hey,
the,
okay.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
know. Gorman won't do anything. They told me maybe I need to speak to someone like I'm crazy to delegitimize my voice.
Gorman is presently the managing
Yes.
partner for the towers.
And I know why this is set up this way, honey. I'm not new to this.
Okay.
Okay, but it's not gonna fly.
But we will, thank you. And
I've also got an eviction notice for failure to pay rent.
Eviction notice.
Well, a termination of lease. And I was not gonna pay them. I have the money, and I'll be happy to pay when they provide a safe and clean living place, which is basic human rights.
Have you not seen the police that is now on the property?
They don't know who lives there. I was threatened at the elevator with violent crime, and they walked right past the police. They don't know who lives there. If there's no security there, checking IDs against a roster, there's no way to prove who lives there. The dope boys and the thugs are posted up there in the recreation room. They're having sex and selling drugs right out of there. There's good people there and children.
I have been by there a few times and in the past, and it did look like a couple of times that it was a lot
I've
of
seen the guns.
overrepresentation. But over the last few days I've been by there, it seems that it has calmed down a
Yeah,
little
they
bit.
moved it down the road, like I said, don't shit where you eat.
Okay, all right, but our director, we're gonna get with you and Gorman, Ms. Kelly, and we will try to provide you with some feedback and that sort of
I
thing.
just want to be moved to a safe place. You know, it's not when they're gonna do something to me, or how, it's when. I
Okay.
know this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm
Hatfield.
sorry,
Thank you.
sir.
No problem. We Appreciate you, but we'll give you some sort of feedback on what happened.
Thank you.
All right.
I haven't had any very much,
Director Benedicto.
Yes, sir. All right, well, I will call Miss Patrice Brumfield up to give the.
Well, wait.
No?
We did not talk about the minutes,
Okay.
and they are huge, and I'd like for us to,
Go back and take a look at it.
and you give us some time to absorb them for next meeting.
Okay.
Do I need to get a motion?
You waive the review of the minutes until the next meeting to give the board, the motion is to waive the minutes till the meeting in June for us to absorb because of the large packet.
Okay, to table the minutes.
Yeah, I need a
Okay.
second, though. We need a second.
Second.
So move, minutes will be tabled until
Take a
our
vote.
June meeting.
Take the vote. All
Take a vote, I'm sorry. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Minutes are tabled until next meeting. All right. Ms. Patrice?
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So for the Housing Choice Voucher program, the utilization for, our overall utilization is at 89%. For mainstream, we have 104 leased with a 66% utilization. For Elm Street, we have 38 leased with a 73% utilization. We've sent out letters for our people on the waiting list at Elm Street. We've made contact with 2. In the process of doing background checks and everything now, and the same for Madison Heights. I know it's not on this list, but we've sent out the applications, 20 for the 1 bedrooms, 15 for our 2 bedrooms, and 15 for our 3 bedrooms. And we also had 3 to come in and pick up applications for Madison Heights. Our EHB program, we have 58 leased, which is 61 voucher utilization. And for FYI, we have 14 leased and 56% utilization. And for, I'm gonna go back to our EHB program, we did have 2 briefings for EHB on April 6th and April 26th. So we are making sure we're doing the briefing so we can get the utilization up in that program. Our BAD program, we have 165 leased, which is a 92% utilization rate.
Director Brumfield, can you share with the board, when we look at the 56, the 61, 73, 66 utilization percentages in the different areas, can you share with us the barriers that keeps those lease-up numbers so low?
Well, I would say some of our barriers are landlord verifications, credit histories on some of our clients. So those have been some of our barriers, like the rental history and different background and credit checks that they do with some of the properties, which is not allowing us to lease up as fast as we would like.
Is there any plans
Or programs coming out of ACV to make our lease-up rates any better?
We actually do have a plan. We have our new specialists for those programs, like giving referrals to different properties and taking time to speak with the landlords and offer different things that we could do to help lease up for those programs.
When we look at these percentages compared to last month and the month before that, are they about the same? They look about the same. They look like they haven't moved. But do you track that?
We have most definitely been tracking that. I would say that the difference in some of our numbers is that we do have a couple of properties in abatement right now. So even though we have had some vouchers being leased or the utilization has gone up, it doesn't look like it's changed because of the abatements.
Chairman Lindsay, overall, the utilization is down 1%. It was at 90% last board meeting. It is at 89% now. And as Ms. Brumfield had stated, we are seeing a decrease in our EHV in particular, and we can tell that's directly related to the most recent property that went into abatement, because we took a deeper dive at what type of vouchers those clients had, and out of that, we were able to identify 5 were EHV clients, emergency housing voucher clients. We are working to get them released in a unit. One of the things that we did, as Commissioner Anthony asked about a plan, we did inquire with the HUD EHV team on yesterday. We had a meeting that was already planned, but we thought we would utilize it to ask them about using the service fees to help these clients lease up the emergency housing vouchers that we know have been affected. One of the things that we know is that these clients did not get the benefit of the service fees afforded in this program. So that means the housing search assistance, if they need paid transportation to search, all those funds are available for those EHV clients. Now, typically, they're available with initial lease up, but given the situation, since those funds were not expended in the first place, they did state that it sounds very reasonable to use those dollars, those service fees, to help them lease up at this point.
So how do they access that? So when they come in, during the interview,
So that's such a great question. With the Emergency Housing Voucher Program, they go through their continuum of care, and that referral is made there, and their needs are identified through that continuum of care, and it's forwarded to us. So a lot of times, that referring agency will assess that they would need help with security deposit, or maybe even transportation costs. Remember, this is a homeless population for the most part, or they're fleeing some type of violent situation. So we would get that, though, to answer your question, from the referring agency most often.
Are there any time limits on when people need to respond? And I guess I go back to the PVV situation with Madison, and we need to be clear that we're talking about PVV vouchers when we're talking about Madison. When you're sending out your search, and also at Elm Street, since we're experiencing a low utilization rate there, are you putting a timeline on when that person needs to respond in order that we can quickly move through the list and get lease up at a higher rate?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
And what's that time frame?
We're giving them 15 days, and after they do not respond, we give them an additional 15 days. And those letters will actually be going out tomorrow. That'll be the 15th day.
I thought they said they're gone.
No, they've gone out, but after they don't respond,
Oh, okay,
we're giving
I'm sorry.
give a
So
additional
totally
time.
30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
30
Okay,
days.
I'm sorry.
Mhm. Yep.
So you said the next set would be going out when?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 30 days to the same group, right?
Yes.
Okay, not to a new group, 30
Not to a
days to
new
the
group.
same group.
Mhm. That's it for my report.
What about the tornado survivors report?
Yes, I added that because, I shared with you that with
Yeah.
our tornado survivors, we had the opportunity to apply for a waiver to assist those residents who were affected and had to leave their homes. So we had about 11 in total. And so I did apply for a waiver, and the waiver was to increase the payment standard in helping them get rehoused, to get that permission, if that would help them get rehoused a lot sooner. We know that with over 250 homes being damaged, that market is getting even closer for them, or tighter rather, for them to rehouse. So we did get approval to assist our tornado survivors in that way. And you'll see a resolution if the board approves, and you'll see those payment standards and the difference that they will be allowed to use, moving to up to 120% of that
Okay.
standard.
So how did that go? How did you contact those people?
So
just
for every person that contacted us to tell us that they were,
Okay.
affected, and then what we would also do, if it was an apartment complex, we would assume that someone else under that same landlord or that same property was affected as well, and then we would do outreach there. So that's how we learned.
11 so far, and it's still open. We still.
It's, at this point, if they've been affected, they've
You should've-
notified us.
This may be it.
Yes, sir.
So is there not anything PR that goes out to make people aware that they can contact MHA? Is there no information being distributed to the community?
As far as our clients,
Well, are we only servicing our clients with that program with the tornado survivors?
we are, it's for our existing client holders. Some of their properties were damaged beyond habitable conditions. And so their units had to be put in abatement. They had to get out pretty quickly. And some of them, we recognize it's not just a housing issue. They're having to start over, having lost everything. And so that increase in payment standard, if we can just get them into a home a lot sooner, they can start to rebuild their lives. And so, you know, we did get that approval. And if the board approves, we will push that out among them more aggressively. And that resolution is in your packet today.
Quick question.
Okay.
Okay.
I noticed here, the landlord, we're still working diligently to get all landlord payments caught up. We are 80% success rate.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that we undertook was a conversion from one software to another. In that initial process, there was, I would say, a user error where a lot of our landlords were affected. So there was a swath of them that we realized did not make it to the conversion. And so we are having to identify them and make sure that they are getting caught up in terms of their payments and making sure that moving forward, they are in the Yardi system. So it wasn't all of them, it was a cluster, but still significant, and we want to make sure they all get paid.
There were always also some glitches, which was some of those things that came up in our Gorman conversation. Kelly, do you want to elaborate on some of the issues that you had with our payments in this meeting?
Certainly. So our HAP payments for the past couple months have been delayed. They haven't been fully received. Oftentimes we're receiving payments for individuals that have moved out or are deceased. Then there's also the payments that we're not receiving for current residents, or we're receiving incorrect payments.
So there's still a purging or a
Yeah.
cleanup that needs to be done on those
That's
programs.
correct, Commissioner Anthony, particularly with our towers, our PBVs, which is set up in a different part of Yardi. So we are working through and trying to understand, making sure that we have them in the right category within Yardi. And yes, Kelly, she promptly notifies us, and we try to, you know, and I thank her for that, even with the overpayments, and we rectify that.
Kelly, we had agreed to in our last conversation that a list was coming out, and I apologize that I hadn't looked at my email close enough to know whether or not you sent that list of those things that were still pending that we needed to clean up for you. Has that list been sent out?
Yes.
Okay, and the director is CC'd on that list?
She is.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
So Chairman Lindsay, I know you requested that the CMAP corrective action
Well,
plan.
no, let's talk about
Okay,
Bradford.
okay, yes, in Bradford
Okay.
Estates. So like Big Country Chateau,
Yeah.
Bradford Estates,
Excuse me, I'm wondering, I placed a form with you.
Oh,
that I could-
citizens,
I'm wondering why I'm being skipped over.
I just have one.
okay.
is there one in front of
One
you?
was given at the front desk.
Oh,
Oh,
it's at the
the
front
citizens.
desk.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't mean to
Okay.
interrupt.
Oh.
We can get it, Ms. Silver.
Yeah, we'll
Can
get
you
you.
up here?
Yes, sir.
I'll be very
Yes.
brief.
Let me,
All right.
okay.
You're
My
with,
name- My name is Vicki Silver, and
where you reside?
I'm sorry.
Where do you reside?
I reside at 2105 Scotty Court in Little Rock, and I apologize for my hoarseness, but I've been having to deal with ongoing secondhand cigarette smoke for 10 months. I've been trying to get assistance from my landlord, Hoffman Realty, River Rock Realty, for 10 months. And My immediate, the manager has been helpful. He's been trying to get me help, but the smoke continues. They evicted one tenant, they moved another one in, and they're smoking. And believe you me, the smoke does come into my apartment. My live-in aide has had recent 2 heart valves replaced. He's had open heart surgery a year ago. He's been in recovery, and Hoffman Realty knows all about this. And, you know, I feel like they just kept gaslighting us for 10 months. Well, I can't smell it. Oh, they notify the tenant that they're gonna do an inspection. 3 days later, they come and well, we can't smell it. And then I said, but David, you told me that you didn't have a very good sense of smell. He goes, oh yeah, that's right. Well, I do smell something. Well, maybe you should buy an air filter for $600. An air filter won't do any good unless all the windows are open, okay? My windows have been open since last October, okay? We've had to run the heat and the air on high with 2 window fans for ventilation. That's how bad it is. My live-in aide has had to be hospitalized on multiple occasions for chest pains. I now have COPD, and I'm being treated for that. I don't smoke, and I don't deserve this. But anyway, so I came down again, once again, to housing. Initially, I came in October, and I was told that, well, you should move. Okay, I had just moved in August. I spent $1,100, money that I borrowed. Okay, I had to borrow this money, and now I'm paying it back. Now I have to move again for probably another 11 or 12. The prices have gone up. That's a real hardship for me. Why should I have to bear this burden? It's unfair. The landlords, if they're going to get insurance rates for non-smoking units, then they should buy a $300 smoke detector, a cigarette smoke detector, which is the detector that's used all across the United States. But they say to me, gee, I don't know what that is. Okay, so let me move on from that. Thank goodness. Thank you, Ms. Benedicto, for your kindness. She has been very kind and helpful, and also Ms. Broomfield, by the way, who is kind of like my new case manager. My first one was new, and she didn't have a lot of experience, so I suffered for the months of May and April. I think I was down here every single day, and I know I pestered them, but I just wanted simple yes/no answers, and my original case manager was giving me like, yeah, no, like that. She didn't really seem to care, but I felt badly for her because I don't think she had the proper training, which let me sum this up. I'm here today because I want to say, I really feel for these people that are having to deal with so many of us. This young lady told me she had 200 people to work with, and let me get to the point. The point is this: if you have any monies, federal monies that you could allocate to help the case managers, give them a raise, or give them less people to have to deal with. They're overwhelmed. These people sitting out here are sitting behind a shield for protection from COVID. They need a bulletproof shield, and they need a buzzer on that door so they don't have to hop up every 5 seconds. That's abusive. It's like you're using human beings as robots. There's an electric buzzer that could be placed on that door. Why not put a little bit of money into the bottom instead of on the top worrying about what you're going to do with this million or that million? Can you not put a little bit down for the people that are dealing with people like me? That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Silver.
You're
That
welcome.
we appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Burke.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Silver.
Patrice.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bradford Estates?
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman? Okay, so, like Big Country Chateau, and they actually are near each other, Bradford Estates also has made the criteria to join the ban list. And we do have residents affected at Bradford Estates as well that they're looking for a place to stay. So a few months ago, the board voted to put Big Country Chateau on the Section 8 ban list, and they will have to reapply if they're to be accepted back onto the program. And Bradford Estates have now fit that bill, so you will see that resolution in your packet today regarding Bradford Estates.
You got an idea how many residents
Yes, we do. And Patrice has reported.
Bradford Estates?
Yes,
Yeah.
for Bradford Estates.
26.
How many?
26,
26?
yes.
I didn't think it was that big.
Are they public housing, or are they Section 8? What's the breakout?
They are all Section 8 ACV.
And so, what would be our next step once they're on our list?
They have to do the vouchers to,
Say again?
they have to give them vouchers to relocate.
Okay. We would have to notify each family?
Yes, sir. As it stands right now, because of the utilities over there at Bradford Estates, they have all been issued vouchers.
Oh.
And they've been staying in hotels, really, provided by the city of Little Rock because of the utility issue. But we do have some of that 26 have managed to very quickly lease up, which we're grateful for, but they are, most of them are searching now.
Okay.
Okay, and,
The only concern that I have is that in this category, a lot of individuals who are being displaced bring vouchers in and think that's immediate, and it's not. Those individuals still have to go through the process. I think we're waiving the application fee, but it's still a process. And they just need to be made aware that there's still a application process in place.
Even though they have the voucher, they still have to go on the list or?
yes, sir, if they are wanting to get in a particular site.
Oh,
So,
okay.
as Commissioner Anthony's saying, like Madison Heights, one,
whatever.
somebody may
Yeah, I
think
got
they
you.
can walk right in, but there's actually a list.
A process, the
That's right,
process.
process.
And as Ms. Brumfield said earlier, because we are a mixed property, there are rules that apply that they may not be able to overcome.
The credit report, and all that sort of thing. I got you, all right.
So, if you're satisfied with the Bradford Estates bullet, next is the CMAP Corrective Action Plan, which, I did bring copies in case someone did not have one. Does any board member need a copy of it? I see Commissioner Anthony, you have one. Okay.
The
Yes.
report.
Yes, I'll give you one. Would you pass that, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry. My question, I guess, really, is the zeros. How do you get a zero?
Well, that's, this is the first time I've seen this.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
so, I'm learning as well how we would get a zero.
Ms. Patrice, do you know?
The zeros are because of the processing of the inspections, the HQS inspections. not
Now,
the-
say that again, the,
The,
come on back up. I'm sorry, I didn't put my hearing aids in.
the zeros are based on, everything that we're submitting, that we submitted to
Right.
CMAP. The HQS inspections, the annual certifications and everything, depending on when they're submitted. And if they're not submitted in a timely manner, then you do receive the zeros.
So, that, the answer is that the reports that were required to these particular programs were not submitted in a timely manner.
That's
Is that?
correct.
Is
Yes,
that
sir.
what- okay. All right. Even though,
It's also a level of performance in those areas. It's not just lateness.
right,
It's also
but
performance.
if you're doing something, look like you would get something. Okay.
So, you might recall at the last board meeting, I stated this quarter is characterized by catch-up, really catching up, and I did say we were behind on the annuals, getting those annuals exams done. We did lose quite a bit of conventional work time during that 3 months of conversion training. We're getting caught up from that as well. And then some of it is just internal systemic issues. Need to get some systems put in place and some accountability standards. So, but we are reviewing and studying this. I did realize in looking at this, it probably should shape the organizational chart that I was stated with Commissioner Wright's suggestion to bring before you all. So I am integrating these measures into that.
These reports also are HUD's way of measuring the performance of the PHA. And they're sent so that the board can also see the deficits and where the deficits are within the agency and its performance. So it also says to us that even though we've got people in place, there are barriers in place, like we just talked about the lease up, okay? And we got the zero on the lease up. The correct tenant rent calculation, that, you know, and of course it gives us the CFR that they're requiring us to follow when we're looking at that. And certainly that's been a itchy issue of ours in making sure that when we're giving zero rent that is warranted and those kinds of things. So while we, the board, do not do the day-to-day operational, it is these types of audits and findings that come back to us that says exactly what's happening behind the desk and in our offices on a day-to-day basis. And it gives us some idea, and I think it's worthy to be noted that where there are significant low markings, it gives us the CFR. That is the HUD regulation that we should be following in every one of those categories. So it's also a teaching instrument. So, you know, as part of our corrective plan, directors, I would hope we have a compliance manager on staff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And it doesn't make, well, and I'd like to see us utilize her. I would hope that it would be amenable for her to actually, using her knowledge of the CFRs, to look at how we are operating in the HCV area to see where we have deficiencies and where we can do better. We recognize that you have a new crew, and that one of the things that we've had in HCV over the years is the passing down of bad habits, not in a disregard for the CFR. You know, we've always done it this way. A voucher has one unit. Well, if their UA is great enough, then they qualify for it too. Nuh-uh, that's not how that goes. So there's a whole list of bad habits that we recognize that as a board that goes on, that we'd like to see, you know, I don't know if there's policies and procedures or standards, or if there's even a place where people can go look at a certain CFR. But that may be something that needs to be in place. But before we actually get into corrective actions, we need to see where we are failing and what's causing that failure. Well, what's causing the failure? It may be the lack of information being readily there. It may be just bad habits. It may be a whole educational process. But, you know, before we hire folks or say it's all a people issue, let's find out how we're functioning now.
Absolutely.
Is this the first time you've seen this?
No, no, we get one of these every year on the CMAC. But again, there are several audits that come through to us because HUD can withhold our funding if we are not functioning at a certain level. So this is why these are important to us. When we know that something needs to be corrected, it is advantageous to us to respond to it so it doesn't continue. Even in our reporting, when we notice that there was a problem and when we corrected it, it always looks better when we're responding to these reports.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Deborah's outstanding.
She is.
So
Just getting ready to say.
I'm thrilled to hear that we'll be able to use her in this process, so.
So now, we're on a time clock as far as responding.
45 days.
45 days from,
April 30th. Time of the date of the letter.
yeah.
So we've already had an initial meeting with the corrective actions.
That's what I was trying to
And,
get. Okay.
but certainly we will welcome the compliance director.
As far as the CFR, do we have like a library or something Or is it all, you go online to view, or
Yeah, most often I will go
is
online,
that right? Okay.
you know, when they cite it like that.
I like
So that may be unnecessary, that we create and update the library
Library.
of CFR as because there are CFRs for everything. And it's also waivers out there for every CFR that we have. So in the cases where we actually need a waiver, it's
We could-
usually in conjunction with whatever the
How to do it,
CFR is.
It says your overall performance rating is standard. I
And
hope
it-
that doesn't make you feel good. I think
we're above standard. We
Huh?
just have to get there.
Say again?
I said, I think we're above standard.
Yeah.
We just have to.
Well, I can tell you in years past, I think a 74 was trouble
But it says 62%. Now, that's failing to me.
That's failure.
All right.
But at least they gave us some grace and mercy.
Amen.
It's needed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're gonna have the plan together by,
Yes, and, you know, we mentioned it briefly, but I thought, you know, I need to really retool that org plan in light of this to make sure that our structure and systems support more efficiency and better utilization of our requirements to make sure we're hitting that mark.
okay.
And I'll be happy to share the draft plan before it's submitted for board feedback, if you like.
Director, would you talk about a little bit about the other audit that we have coming up, or the completion of the audit on the 21st of June?
We do,
And this is, which one,
this is, initially, it was a Section 8 audit
Yeah.
or HUD review. As I understand it now, it's a little bit more, it's broader than Section 8, it's more operational. And so they will look at programs and processes beyond that department. And so we are required, and we did receive an extension, there's a lot of documentation that has to be uploaded to help the HUD reviewers prepare to review us. And really, after the meeting, we've got to
get on?
get on and make sure we meet all those expectations in terms of the upload, so.
And just as a matter of our showing that we are utilizing compliance management, would you ask them to add Deborah to these mail outs as well
Sure.
as to the process in its entirety? She can share with you that CAHC has gone through quite a bit of this, and a lot of it wasn't our fault, but once we sat in the seat, we took ownership of whatever was there.
Right.
You are in the seat.
Yeah.
And some of the records that we dealt with had not been touched since 2018, 2019. But the requirement had to be met, so that meant we cleaned it up. We got hit with the fines, we got hit with everything that had to do with that once we took over ownership. So it looks like some of this stuff may have existed when you came into play. But as you sit in that seat and as you are the organization that is in place, it becomes imperative that we do the heavy lifting of cleaning it up. So just don't want you to be bewildered that it's old stuff. It's still our stuff, and we gotta clean it up.
Okay.
All right, so if you're ready, see Ms. Russell out there? I think she may have stepped out for a moment. So as Alpha is making her way down, she did state that she would be able to have the Section 8 and some CAP funds information included or available for this board report. And then she is working her way in terms of getting documents for this HUD review and getting the COC finished so that it can be included in the next report. So she is, I'm sure, on her way down.
Now, I noticed that we did get the CAP report, right, as a part of this package.
Yes. So,
And in looking at it, I saw some things, and I guess I need to ask her about it, but I don't know what I did with it. There are some changes that I saw as far as obligation dates. Does anybody have? Because
what is it that you're looking for?
well, yes, okay. If you will look at that 2015 CAP fund, and we got an obligation date, last month that obligation said 8/31/2023. What does it say now?
23.
That's it. Huh?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Same thing?
End of obligation, which means we need to do something with that.
Yes.
Are you losing?
Bear with me for
Okay.
1 second.
It looks like something in cap funds that had it to be used by,
Now,
I'm confused here. Now, I'm not sure, and I need to go back and look at the CFR. If the obligation date release means that it could be adjusted, or if we lose it completely. And I'm drawing a blank, on that practice. If the end of obligation means that it goes
it has
back
to
into
be
the.
obligated by that. It doesn't have to be spent, but it
But
has to be obligated.
obligated, okay.
That's right.
But if it has end of obligation, is like this one is 4/12/2023, which is passed.
So, yeah, so what happens is, and I've met with someone yesterday regarding CAP funds, the HUD field office. So, if those funds are obligated, and you're right, Chairman Lindsay, it doesn't have to be spent by the time of obligation, but if you don't spend those dollars down, once you've obligated, you're gonna get a penalty, we're gonna get a
Right.
penalty.
That's my concern, and that's what I was trying to get at. So,
So
and by
yeah.
obligated, that means that in our plan,
The 5-year.
that 5-year plan,
Yes.
that we had specified that
We were gonna do
these funds were gonna be
That's
used
right.
for a specific idea.
That's right,
Right.
and when it's obligated, we're pretty much saying we have, we're in
plan to
contract
use
for that
that
service.
money, yeah.
Yeah, that we're about to pay drawdown for at some point in the future.
But it also speaks to emergency situations.
Okay?
That also qualifies. Well, I
Which
mean,
would-
it wouldn't be emergency if we could forecast it.
Right. But things happen.
Things happen.
Yes, things do happen. They're in your appendix of your binder, and this would have been way too thick to include the entire, guide, CAP fund guide, and it's much like what you sent out, Commissioner Anthony, except this one's a little bit more current. And it talked about the eligible activities and cost limits for the CAP fund dollars. Also in that manual, it does have some descriptions, for various eligible uses, including, some descriptions for emergency, uses.
Vacancy reduction and some other issues.
So I did include what I thought might be some pertinent descriptions within the appendix, and they're numbered like 1 through 9, and it kind of describes what some of those eligible activities would look like for CAP funds. And looking at the 5-year plan, it looks like quite a bit of it have been obligated for RAD activity.
Yeah, it was 4,470,000 or something that was obligated.
4.75.
5, and
And that's been paid.
that's been paid,
That's been paid.
right?
That was a sunset, that was a sunset obligation.
Yes. But that left us a balance of almost $1 million.
And so I will say this, in having this meeting on yesterday, there's some cleanup, there's some outreach I'm gonna have to do regarding the CAP funds. So for example, in 2018, there was an obligation, and those dollars are under a line item that cannot be accessed by us, or it can't even be accessed by the HUD field office. It's a line item 1503. And so that means we'll have to get in contact with our RAD transaction manager to help us with that line. We can see it, but we cannot do anything with it unless there's someone else on a HUD level has to help us with that. So Alf and I are trying to get to the right person so that we can understand what needs to be done. And this is for the 2018, there's about 11,000 balance there under the 1503 line item.
If it was, in 2018 would have been the towers, right?
Would have been who? The towers.
Right.
It looks like we will be facing that issue again in 2021. So we're going to try to get on top of that because there's 1503 and 1504. Again, those lines are grayed out.
Well,
So we're researching to see how we have to figure out how those line items, if it's possible, and it might be, can get them back into some other lines where we can do the revisions that the board see fit to do in terms of the 5-year plan, and put them under other line items other than RAD activities if we are already satisfied that.
well, okay.
And some of that would have been for Madison and Granite Mountain, but because of the delay with the former developer and us having to go back out and rebid, and it's
That was the delay.
that was for those properties. Yeah.
That is correct. There's quite a bit from the RAD development for Madison Heights 1 and 2.
So the approach would be
And Homes
to,
of Granite
when you
Mountain.
talk to them about moving this, or whatever needs to be done to access that prior to this,
And to the properties that the RAD actually has not taken place. Because
Okay.
that's the dilemma. By this time, it wouldn't even be a conversation.
It's gonna be a delay.
Because RAD would have taken care of it. But since, even to this day, we do not have a RAD plan or a budget or a finance plan in place, this is the more reason why those funds should be moved to access those repairs for those properties.
okay.
That's right, because right now they're all under RAD activity.
But there isn't any.
So there are some steps to be taken, and the recommendation that I was given yesterday was to reach out to our RAD transaction manager to help with that. So Alpha did try to submit and do a reorganization, and then we ran into that roadblock.
This
When you
should be
say
somebody,
reorganization, which, reorganization? Oh, the moving.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
they wouldn't let you, yeah.
Right.
that should be somebody in Tom Davies' office who's over redevelopment, or T.J. Carroll.
Yes.
The young lady
Miss
that,
Carroll.
that would be a part of that movement. But Miss Carroll works for Tom Davies.
Okay. So we will do that outreach, really this afternoon. We met with the HUD field office yesterday afternoon. They were pretty helpful in
The
giving us
steps
some
that you need to
direction.
take, okay.
Yes.
Would you just let us know?
I will.
After, just shoot us a little email to, this is what they said, and this is what I'm gonna do
To deal with those
deal with
line
that,
items.
yeah.
Okay.
sorry.
Absolutely.
I guess Alpha's not gonna come.
Well,
All right.
I know she was making copies for the board regarding the CAP funds, so you can see year, but you're welcome to take my packet and look at it year by year for each development.
Can we go on to the next item?
Yeah, and then come back.
Okay, and the 5-year plan. Okay, so speaking of finance, we are on to procurement. And, let me just get there. So, one of the things we're trying to do, and it's been a little bit challenging without a dedicated procurement person, is making sure we're following the proper steps with our procurement. And what I did realize that we have, one of the things that we were deemed on as an agency is not having a documentation of the independent cost estimate before purchases are made or before solicitations are put out. And so we are now making sure that we document the ICE before we can move forward with a vehicle purchase. So we have to do that ICE first, then do quotes. And so just making sure that.
Exactly what is ICE?
It's an independent cost estimate.
And how do you do that?
So you can get an ICE a few ways, depends on what you're purchasing. Now, with the case of the vehicle,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy.
Okay.
Because you can go online and you can get an assessment of what you think a certain vehicle, an estimate of what a certain vehicle would cost. And if you go to more than one source, you can kind of get an average. And it seems really simple, but it's actually been something that's been skipped in the past. And I realize we're probably about to do that again, so we could back up and make sure we're getting that ICE and document it before we could do the purchase. And same with, again, before getting the quotes with security, realize, wait a minute, where's our ICE? So we're having to really retrace our steps on that to make sure we're in compliance. One of the things that the board asked for is that the individuals who have a contract, that they come before the board or they send a letter stating that they want to renew their contracts, and because they typically have 2 one-year terms that they're eligible for. And so this one really slipped up on me, so we'll do better with tracking with that. But I know there's some contractors that probably are mainly utilized by CHC, the Diamond Legacy, and the Plumbing and HVAC Services, and Clark Renovations.
I don't know who plumbing and AC.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Okay.
But also, there is a quality evaluation
Mhm.
form
Yes.
that goes out 90 days before that contract is up. And I'm also concerned, I think some of our legal lawyers, legal services is also up within the next 90 days.
So they're up in September.
Okay.
So, yes, you're right, they're coming up next. So we went ahead and generated their letters because we are behind on this one. When we caught this one, we went ahead and did the legal services. And so, yeah, they are getting their letters. So, yes,
But
the
if they've
evals.
expanded the 5-year, are they given the opportunity to bid again? If they've had more than 5 years?
5 years. Well,
I can research that.
I'm scratching my brain on my procurement training. I'm just wondering, because we agreed in one of our meetings to follow the CFR 200 in every aspect. So I'm not sure if it's, it's 5 years, I think it's 5 years, and they are not allowed to bid, or if there's a break.
Okay.
But I'm just not sure. So I'd
Okay.
just like to verify if they've been there 5 years.
So I don't know the answer to that question right now, but I can research it.
Okay.
There's just a lot of content around procurement to remember. So the question is, once they complete their 5 years here, are they eligible to bid on the next solicitation? Okay, so I'll find that out. Speaking of solicitation, one of the things you asked from the last board meeting, really a couple board meetings, that there be a cost analysis done on our printer copier, lease versus purchase. And I did include that analysis on the next page. We did a comparison to see which one is most cost effective. And as you can see, and I did use a 5-year mark, assuming that any contract we go into is renewed for those additional 2 years. So what we're looking at is at $15,000 if we were to lease a copier over a 5-year period, and if it stayed at $240 a month rate. Now with the purchase, we're looking at $7,700. The particular company that we're looking at, we looked at multiple companies, but we settled on one with the best pricing. Their particular copier, they claimed lasts 10 years, but independent research was required because they are trying to sell us something. So on average, they last between 7 years. Copiers, if you purchase them, can last up to 10 years if you maintenance them. Particularly black and white copiers, they tend to live a little bit longer. This is the black and white copier that we are trying to procure for Section 8. Both the lease and the purchase option, we would have to do a maintenance plan if we lease. No insurance coverage needed. That's the beauty of the lease. If it's something wrong with it, they'll fix it or replace it. If we purchase, we would need to insure it in case there's somebody takes a baseball bat to it or something, or a lightning strike or something. That insurance cost would be $3,000 over 5 years. So you can see those totals. So in total, if you lease, 5-year period, you're looking at $18,900. If we purchase, we're looking at $14,600. That will generate a cost savings of $4,300 if there's a purchase. And we do know that that's a minimum. That's for 5 years. If it lasts beyond 5 years, then it captures more savings. And we do know there is a market for refurbished copiers. So if at that point when we're ready, after 7 years with that purchase copier to sell it, let somebody refurbish it, there might be just a little bit more savings captured there as well. But ultimately, there's a savings with the purchase option.
So on the evaluation forms we would be looking at Clark renovations, Diamond Legacy, extraordinary cleaning, and again, I don't know who this plumbing and HVAC services is.
Okay, so I'm not really sure who they are. I saw them in the procurement records, so I can try to do more research on them. And it could just be that they've just not been utilized,
Hadn't been.
Very much by the agency. But that's correct. And so I do have those evals because I know they have to be done, and we're behind in getting them out.
So normally we include Melvin because Melvin is the maintenance person who oversees that.
Okay.
And we also, I think there are about 3 people that are involved in that.
Okay. Commissioner Anthony, you want me to get these to Melvin?
I can take them.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
And of course, the extraordinary cleaning that's here at MHA. I don't know if you all utilize them as
We
well.
have used her in the past when we first got there, but we have our own cleaning team now.
Okay. So we'll just do that one.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a resolution in your packet regarding the copier with the recommendation of the purchase opposed to the lease. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't, okay.
Okay. All right. So Chairman, if you're ready, legal.
Well, I see where we're gonna ask
Oh, Al.
Alta something.
Sure. She is here now. I'll
Yeah.
pause.
And yeah, you had something for us or what? And this is on the cap funds or this is, what is this?
Capital.
This, okay, this is capital fund report.
Is this all the same?
Yes, that was.
Tell us what each is. Is this different from what's in our packet?
No, it's
Okay,
it's
this is the same. Okay.
It's just- And it's just telling you the remaining, the fine
Balance,
print, letting you know the remainder of the amount that's in capital funds and the allocation amounts
All right.
are.
So this is, the first one is, this is award information and this
Yes,
is,
for
this
2015.
is, and this represents what?
Which, are you on 2015?
I'm on the first one, yeah.
Okay, 2015. The remainder of that balance is 341, which is on your cover page. And it's just detail, and it's just giving you more detail of the cost breakdown.
Okay.
And the page after that shows you what projects they're for or were used for. Sunset is there, but that's all been expended.
Is it,
2016,
do we know if there was, I know that our obligation for Sunset was 4.75. Was there any, and I guess I'm looking for the remainder, if there was any remainder cap funds that was left after we satisfied the RAD obligation of 4.75 million. I
for
don't think,
Sunset or for all projects?
no, that was for Sunset.
The 4.7,
The
yeah.
4.7 was all Sunset. And I think they took it over several years.
Yes, and we used grants from 2015 all the way through, I believe, 2018.
So Commissioner Anthony, your question is are there any dollars
Is
left?
there any residuals
For
from?
Sunset
From
Terrace.
Sunset?
And if,
No,
okay.
I don't-
And because they're now red.
Mhm.
Right.
So if there's any residuals, again, you utilize it or you lose it.
Yeah, and if there is any, we want to,
You want to be able to.
Exit.
Redistribute it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would think that there would be because we still had people living there and that's public housing.
And I can always
Huh?
refer back.
We can certainly look at that. Alpha, I did share that we're gonna have to do some outreach to the RAD transaction manager
Yes.
to get all this sorted out, because there is some capital fund housekeeping that was in order, that dates back. And, there are penalties associated with obligating funds and not drawing down
Yes.
after that obligation's been made, because, we got some type of notification stating that was the case for 2018,
That what?
that funds have been obligated for
Uh-huh.
2018, but they weren't all drawn
Given
down. And so, we've got to get some help with getting that sorted out. So
Okay.
we will be reaching out, and I'll let you know, Chairman Lindsay, what the outcome is, and once I make that outreach.
Let me just ask about these obligations. I found a piece of paper that I was looking for. This is, I have last month's cap fund report.
Oh,
And then I looked at the obligation date for what you just gave. And there are different dates.
Right.
On some of
I
them.
went back and looked, and I printed those out,
Yeah,
I believe, and
so
From
my
what
question, so, yeah, so tell me, you went back and looked at what happened?
looked and updated the obligation dates. I know in the beginning, they did extend the
Okay, that's what I was
obligation
trying, that's all right,
dates.
so that's what I was trying to, yeah,
Yes.
so what happened was that you went back and looked and you found out that that date had been extended to what's current,
What's
what
on
we
the-
got.
what's on the current
That's what I was
report.
trying to, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's exactly what I was. That was my question.
So, included that was in your report today that had not been in the most recent or the prior reports are, some of the financials regarding mainstream
Yeah.
and section 8. I didn't know if you had any questions about that. Probably need more time to look it over because these were added to the packet late.
I'd like to look it over, sorry. Anything else?
All right, so, thank you.
Thank you.
On the legal front, I don't have any new updates. I do know that, Rebecca Young should have something for us pretty soon in terms of an update, because I do know that this week there was some activity on, one of our cases that she's handling. But I'll wait till she, notifies me on what, or I'll reach out to her to make sure that that's included in the upcoming report. Now, you might recall, I had to go back and look, there was litigation, Arkansas Fair Housing Commission versus Little Rock Housing Authority. It was very old, pretty old litigation. We did settle that months ago. A part of that settlement agreement required that MHA staff undertake 8 hours of training, and so we actually finished our training obligation on yesterday. We had to shut down half a day and be in an ADA webinar to satisfy that settlement agreement regarding housing and ADA. So we did settle that, and so we should really be, completely through with those requirements. Also, part of that was to submit an ADA policy, which we did do. We just haven't heard back from them yet, but we've met our deadlines in getting that to them. So on our end, we've satisfied that agreement as of yesterday.
I would ask, the OIG did some investigation locally a couple of weeks ago. Was anybody in the organization other than me? And I
Contact.
think Chairman Lowe interviewed during that OIG visit. Was anybody on staff? There were some other components which we, as the board, had put into play in questioning some things. So we did have 2 OIG officers in town for 3 days, a couple of weeks ago, that were, and I did spend about 2.5 hours with them on another matter that to me was more about the CARES Act spending than it was about anything else, which had been something that I know that litigation was something that the chairman had put forth. And I don't know if they attached it to something else that they were here looking at, but I do know that I had a 2.5 hour interview, and our finances were a part of that discussion. So just making you aware.
Okay. No, I was not aware of that.
I did, well, like I said, I didn't know if they visited the office here or if they visited with someone, because we did meet someplace other than the office. so I wasn't sure.
Okay. So, Chairman, in terms of development, I do not have anything.
Well, from Gorman, well, Kelly, you're still online with Gorman. From the development side, what we do have going is still Sunset. And there's a question that could be, well, it's going well. But Kelly, we are aware there was a fire at Powell. Can you elaborate on the damages of that fire?
Sure. There was a small fire at Jesse Powell on Tuesday evening. It was contained to the residents' kitchen area. And most of the damage is smoke related. There were no sprinklers. There was no water damage in the building. Based off the recommendation of the Little Rock PD, I believe 1 or 2 residents were displaced just for the evening. They have since been able to go home. The resident whose home was impacted was released from the hospital. He did suffer some minor burns and some smoke inhalation. However, he is also back home. Not in his apartment, as his apartment is not in the condition that he can move back into at this time.
Thank you.
So our team is, we just got the okay to start looking into the restoration of the unit. So we should probably be getting more information of that today and then by the end of the week as to what our next steps will be.
I know in our weekly meetings pertaining to Sunset, we are on task. We're really should be moving a little bit swifter. There is a open house event that's planned, but it looks like it's going to be late June before that takes place. So that's what I know from the developer side.
Yeah, I believe our relocation specialist reached out to schedule the first set of HQS inspections to start moving people back into their permanent residency. So things are absolutely moving.
On the fire, Kelly, is the resident, is he back in his apartment or
No,
he's not?
it's not livable.
He,
Thank you. Captain.
It's not livable.
oh, not happening, okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, next, employment.
I know that there is a search going on for a financial director. Not sure how that is going. And I'm sure that part of the Corrective Action Plan will possibly carry some employment, if only for public housing, since it looks like that's one we have neglected for quite some time. But other than that, I don't know if we're doing anything on the procurement, so I will pass it off to Director Benedicto.
Thank you, Commissioner Anthony. So a couple of things on the employment front as relates to finance director. So we are actively recruiting for that position, and we've had some candidates, and we've gotten some resumes from a search firm as well. As of right now, we do have someone working with us from Robert Half. They started on Monday to really give us some support and help us to get caught up in finance and to get things, where it needs to be. And when that new hire comes on board, the lift won't be as heavy.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We do have some applications for procurement. We are running into, those quality applications for that particular position. That's presented a bit of a challenge to recruit for. Robert Half did state that they could possibly assist with the procurement. We have engaged with them to see what they could possibly do on the procurement front as well. And as I understand it, they have been in touch with Starla with some viable leads with the procurement front. So we're really hoping to clinch really both those positions pretty soon, because we are certainly filling their absence. But Finance Director, in terms of the applications, Starla, do you mind sharing how many do we have from the Robert Half? I know we had a meeting with them for them to nail down what we are really, really needing in terms of a candidate, and Starla had that meeting with them.
I just emailed his for speaking, but they haven't sent over the actual resumes yet. And I actually spoke with them this morning, and they were still getting some more, asking a lot of different questions just to make sure we have somebody that's a good fit for, and as far as, having a finance director, we know that they probably want to have some choice in their staff, so we're going to start with the finance and procurement director first and then work out right now, but we're working on catching up everything and coming up with a plan, so.
Yeah, and we have forwarded Robert Half the
say
job
again, have
description.
what?
We forwarded them our finance director job description, which they were very complimentary of for some reason. They really liked it, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna be using it. But, so they can really understand the essential functions of that job and what's needed. They did ask in terms of other characteristics, of course, they have to be a quick study. I mean, this, with HUD and all these regulations, you have to be a studied person, and that competency has to be there if they don't have that HUD background already to learn very quickly. So we are giving them the information they need so that we can get some very attractive candidates and nail down a hire pretty soon.
As you know, our Director of Finance came from Robin Half, and we couldn't be happier with the hire that we made from Robin Half. They do quality. She is amenable to working with all of the staff, and she's just been the backbone of making sure that everything runs smoothly and getting her reports. We had a celebration. Her first quarter report was perfect. And when she got it back, she went to every location to let us know that we were good. We went through a labor department. Someone wanted to make sure we were properly dealing with overtime, and she handled that without a hitch. So it has made the difference with us having somebody who's qualified in that position. But what I think I heard something, Starla, that I hope I'm hearing, that you're going through a complete restructuring of the finance department as you're at this point when you're really looking to see what is really needed in there. There are some components that we know we gotta have, like the person who handles accounting for ACV, but I'm glad to hear that we're looking at a total restructuring of that department.
I should have an applicant by tomorrow, actually, for the finance director. I spoke with the representative today.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? Brother Jackson?
My report is real brief. No new occurrences other than we do have security at our tower, which is working out real well.
You need to speak up.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Speak up, your mama.
I'm sorry, I forgot it. We have security at our building, and it's working out well. It's actually made a difference in the neighborhood instead of just in our building. The streets are a lot cleaner. It's like every night now I can come home and park. Because at first, before all this happened, before the security that we have now in place, Little Rock Police Department, we wouldn't have any parking spaces. And people gather up under the tree, and I mean, the whole street was just like crowded, like it was a party. That is an all start. That stopped all now. So other than that, about fire at
Now, I'm saying that, excuse me, but about Paris also, that I had noticed that the crowds had decreased.
Decrease a little
Yeah,
bit.
you know, I could drive through there, so it's, evidently they've said something, or somebody said something to the
Well,
authorities.
to the point that the blue lights was speaking. That's what it is. Because I got told, one of the officers, Tuesday night, I was telling him the blue light is like red to the people.
Roaches, yeah, right.
I mean, there's not nobody standing out in the
Yeah.
corners, even across the street, parking lots, all of the, you know, drug activity, everything has ceased. And, last night, I saw one of the officers do something I seen, that was the first I seen do it, and that is he got out the car and walked around the building. Normally, we have two cars. They have one in the back and one in the front, and they both have their lights, you know, on. And so that's a big deterrence, that light, that blue light. They see those blue lights, they know not to come up in the parking lot anymore. Other than that, right now, as far as I see the building, they're doing a lot of maintenance. This morning, as I left out, they're checking cars. Cars are not running, flat tires, stuff like that, just sitting on the parking lot, taking up parking spaces. They were doing that this morning, so that's basically it. I mean,
Will they tow them? Will
Yeah,
they
yes,
tow
sir, yeah, they will tow them. What it is now, the parking lot, if you park there and you live there, you have a permit sticker on your car. So a lot of people, that's another way they're getting people out that don't belong there. Before security came, there's a lot of people that just practically moved in, they don't belong on the lease, and, you know, so that's another way they're getting rid of the people that don't live there. They're getting rid of the cars that don't have the stickers on them. You have to show your proof of insurance and all that to the office when when you move in. And other than that, in that case there, I mean, I've seen a few people moving out. But other than that, it's been quiet. It's been real quiet. We down in fires too, because false alarms.
Not gonna
Yeah,
work.
not gonna work. Because we had our share of fires and stuff, but other than that, everything seems to be going good.
Kelly, I'm sure you're glad to hear that report.
I am very glad, thank you.
Yeah,
Elevators work? Elevators work?
elevators.
The elevators are scary.
Yeah.
The people who haven't lived there, they're not used to the noise. They like, if they hear the noise, and I can tell when they're not there, they hear the noise, and what's that?
Exactly.
And they like, I will not take the elevator. There are quite a few young people, believe it or not, that don't take the elevator. They take the stairs and going up to wherever. Me, myself, 10 floors, I'm not going to try it unless I have to. So, but they're doing their best they can with the elevators. My understanding with the elevators is the company that actually put the elevators there really, they're not in business anymore. So there's another company that's coming in and having to build parts to maintain those elevators. So, let's see, I've been there 9 years now, and I think they're going to blink whenever they want to.
How old is that building? How old is that building?
About 50,
Yeah.
close to 50. It's about, let's see, made in 74, wasn't it?
I think Paris is the oldest in it.
Yeah, Paris is the oldest, but that one was built in 74. So it's about 48, 49.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Kelly, can you give us an update on the elevator at Paris and its repairs?
Well, I'm happy to share that as of today, both elevators are running. However, so one elevator was left running, and then while the second car was getting repaired / updated, and so they're both running right now. However, Kone, our provider, will be starting work on the second elevator, so we will be taking that other elevator out of service while they do that work, but we're not expecting quite as long of a duration for that repair.
Has any posting been done in the building?
I believe it has been communicated throughout the community, but I will confirm.
Is that for how?
That's Paris.
That's Paris. Kelly, is Powell, both of their elevators running? I got a report that one of the elevators had went down.
No, not to my knowledge. All the elevators the elevators at Jesse Paula and Cumberland are working.
Okay. All right, appreciate it.
If the report came in on Tuesday, there's a good chance that the fire department took the elevator out of service while we were, while they were doing their fire things. But well, to my knowledge, everything is working just fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Fancy.
That's my report.
I heard you say something.
Yeah,
Eric.
I'll say something, that's all right.
Nothing else?
Air conditioners, were there any air conditioner issues at any of the towers? Or
I know our tower, when it storms, the storms pretty much knock them out, but they got them back up now.
Yeah, there was, so what happened that last storm? I think.
The last storm kind of knocked some of them out. Some of them still were running pretty good, but it's been like that the last 9 years. It's been like that. Every time it storms real bad, it knocks them out. They come back in and they fix them. So I think that last ones, well, right now as we speak, I think there are a few calls in our building because I saw the air conditioning company out there yesterday, and they're going around. They just finished changing all the filters. So yeah. So other than that, everybody's getting cool now.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Don't have anything to add to finance except for BKD.
Yes, so from the last board meeting, the qualified audit was agreed to move forward with, and Corey stated he projected a May date in which that audit would be complete. So I did check in with Corey. He says he and his team is still on target to have the qualified audit complete for 2019 this month. So as soon as that comes down and it's complete, I will let you know, but he says they are still on track for completion in May.
So, do they have a plan as far as the next step, the next year in completing? Have we talked about that?
So, we've not spoken about a specific plan. I mean, he did, speaking broadly, state that once 2019 gets done, we'll have to move to get the other outstanding audits complete, which we need it very much so because we're labeled troubled with, from HUD's point of view by not having these audits done. So he is aware of that. In terms of the plan, we have got to get this finance director because it's going to be pretty intense to get caught up.
Okay. All right. Old business. Gorman?
I think
No update?
they've already done.
And nobody from design group. All right. New business is, the action item is the vehicle. Go ahead.
Yes, so you might have noticed in our parking lot, we're kind of bringing down the neighborhood a little bit with these vehicles that we had to bring over from Sunset when that deal closed, the old van and a truck, and pretty old, not real usable. And at this point, we did some research and looked at what the agency has done in the past when it has vehicles that are old and just not in use anymore. Auctions have been used in the past. So I did speak with Chairman Lindsay about getting authorization to dispense of those vehicles through a process so that
We
we
know who
can.
those vehicles belong to.
MHA.
I mean,
How many?
no, how many? 3?
It's 5 in total.
5. And they're all Section 8? Or
No, sir.
they're all?
So,
Public housing.
that's correct.
Okay, yeah,
Public housing.
all right.
That's what Sunset was, is public
That
housing.
makes sense, okay.
That is correct, with the exception of one. One truck, I believe, was purchased with American Rescue dollars. It was, but Section 8 used it.
Okay.
But the rest, all public housing.
And so you have a resolution in here for you to take the steps necessary to dispose of those vehicles, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll get to that. And what were we gonna say about these cap funds?
Well, you know what, it is on there, but looks like we've discussed those CAP funds. I have some steps to take, some outreach to do with the RAD transaction coordinator, Ms. Carol, Tawana Carroll, to see how we can get those
Right,
lines
yeah.
activated and be able to move that money in a revised plan, if it's still possible. In your resolution, you know, you'll see those payment standard changes for the tornado survivors report, and in case you have questions about that.
And what about that second one? Now, what is this one? This is authorization, a 60-month equipment lease. This is the
Printer.
who? Printer.
Mhm. Copier.
The copier printer,
Right.
yes.
But we need to decide if we're gonna rent it or purchase it. Purchase it. Right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, and that's what it said, lease or purchase.
And whatever you all decide, we'll,
Correct. So what's the pleasure?
It's cheaper to purchase it.
Yes, sir. I agree.
So do you need a motion for, do we need to vote on this?
Well, no, let's go through them first here in the next one. So, but we agree that resolution 2023-05, 68, 64 is for purchase of a copier.
Yes.
All right. And then resolution 68, 65, resolution to add Bradford Estates to the banned property list. Is that correct?
And then you have
That's
one,
correct.
yeah, 2-1.
And resolution 68, 66, authorizing the disposition for the sale of 5 company vehicles.
Then you have one on top, it's 68, 63, authorizing the disaster relief payment.
Payment increase, yeah, she covers, he said that. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we vote on these in a bundle
Okay.
rather than individually.
I second that.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to vote on 68, 63.
We had a motion
Did we get the
to, we
motion?
had a motion to bundle it.
Okay,
It was seconded. so
okay.
we need to vote.
We need a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Seeing none, 68, 63, 68, 64, 68, 65, and 68, 66 is approved. Executive session.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
Did we decide to purchase or lease?
Purchased,
Purchase.
yeah.
Purchase.
Okay. So they've all been voted on? in
Yes,
favor?
and approved.
Okay.
There was something else we needed to say.
What were we doing?
Huh?
Okay.